I think everybody's here. Okay, hey everybody, I want to welcome you to our HR panel. I'm really excited that that we have this amazing panel that's come together just to talk about what's going on in HR right now. I think it's a great topic. I know many of you are potentially interested in pursuing careers in HR, or you're already in the HR field and you're looking to just gain more perspective. So I think this is going to be a great hour. We're going to have some great questions, and I will say, if you do have questions that maybe I haven't asked, something else that comes up, feel free to type them in the chat, and then what I will do is at the end I can ask any additional questions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. So first, I'm going to start with Allie Jennings. She is the Director of HR for Perfect Snacks. You may know them, from the Perfect Bar. And so it's a great, the original refrigerated snack, peanut butter and almond, and just some really great products. And so, so thank you, Allie, for coming. And then one of our other panelists is Wendy Nieback. She is the head of talent acquisition for Q Health. And so Wendy's also an alum. She's an alum from our MBA program, and she's helped us out a lot in doing other panels. She has sat on the board for our alumni group, and so she's hiring a bunch of people, and I'll let her talk about that, but we really appreciate that. And then Efren Lira, who is with Evans Hotels, and he is the Director of Talent Acquisition and Business Partner for HR. And so formerly with the Padres, and so we're just we work with him to help get our students roles in hospitality, and so appreciate Efren being here. So let's go ahead and start with, I guess first, just tell us a little bit about just your company, maybe your role, what it means to be a Director of HR, Director of Talent Acquisition. Allie, why don't we start with you?
So as Nick said, I am Allie, the HR Director at Perfect Snacks, and I have been with the company for 7.5 years. And the Perfect Snacks story starts about, well, really since Bill Keith was born, so that's about 40 years ago. But they really created this company in 2005. It's a family-owned company. The kids started it in honor of their father, who soon after passed. This is his legacy. It was a product that he created just to help his kids eat healthy on the go. He was very much in the wellness kind of the field, and this was just something that was really important to him. So in his legacy, the eldest members, because there are a lot of kids in this family, the eldest members started Perfect Bar and really started to see traction in like 2014. And it's been this wild, crazy ride over the course of the last 7.5 years. We got venture capital investment in us in 2015. And then in 2019, we had an acquisition with Mondelez, so think Oreos. And they are a majority owner of us now. So seeing a lot of different changes over the course of the last 7.5 years. HR Director at Perfect Snacks. It encompasses everything: people, culture, talent, growth, development, all that fun administrative stuff as well, to ensure that we are adhering to all the laws that we have to in HR. And then we get to be kind of like the celebratory, fun patrol as well. I often say I am a principal, a therapist. It kind of comes with a full gamut of responsibilities, but that's kind of what we really focus on. So that's it.
So can we be expecting, Allie, an Oreo flavored Perfect Bar at some point in the near future? I would vote for that one. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe. Awesome. Wendy, why don't you go next?
Okay, so I am the head of talent acquisition at Q Health. Q Health is a technology / medical device / in vitro diagnostic company. We've been around since 2010. And I would say our current initiatives are really in the last 6.5 years or so. we've had 3 different cartridges currently, one detects HIV. And with that cartridge, we have a partnership with Johnson & Johnson since 2016. We have another cartridge that detects influenza A, influenza B, and 4 different types of respiratory pathogens. And with that cartridge, we have a $30 million funding contract with U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Biomedical Advanced, and that is BARDA, which was announced in July 2018. Also announced at that time, we received our ISO 13485 certification, and then a Series B funding for our initial set of FDA 510K clinical studies. Really, since then, I mean, we have powered forward on all of that, and then last year, we actually did develop a COVID-19 diagnostic cartridge with additional funding from BARDA. And it's based upon our platform that we already had for HIV and influenza. So since then, I mean, gosh, there's been a lot that happened. Check out our website, most of which at this point I can't talk a ton about, but it is very exciting. HR here at Q, actually up until about May of 2020 was really 4 people, but 2 people in HR. We had our HR director and myself, and then we had an office manager, and IT was actually within HR. Since that time, we've actually grown. My team is, I think right now I have a team of about 22, 24 growing just in TA, and our HR team is probably about 50 and encompasses onboarding and office management and HR core. And then we have just a ton. We're just growing immensely. What I can say is since May of 2020, we have more than, with our temps, probably close to 16 times our company in that short period of time. And most of that was done with Google Sheets. So we were a Google Sheet company because we're a startup.
Yeah.
And this year is the first year we have a system. So Workday is our system. We just had that in since about April 23rd. It's in HR since February, but we didn't join them until that time. So it's just been an exciting time. We've hired about 780 people. I offered them myself in Google Sheets prior to that. And I think we hired about the first 900, another few hundred after that, or a couple hundred after that was, you know, I didn't actually offer myself, but we hired without a system. So it's just been an amazing ride. I mean, we have about, I think 230 recs open that probably encompass, I don't know, probably about 500 positions. And then about temp roles are about 215, just as of this morning. That doesn't include anything with attrition or that could come tomorrow. So exponential growth, super exciting. A lot is being built. I mean, we're just getting the teams in the door to be able to help manage not only the HR team, but create the programs that we need for a company of, 1,400, 1,500, 1,600. So, and growing. So it's exciting.
Where and where are you where's your office headquarters? Is it Sereno or?
It's in Sereno Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like our team, TA team is completely remote and we're all
remote. Okay. Awesome, Wendy. Thanks so much. Efren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Efren. I'm the Corporate Talent Acquisition Business Partner for Evans Hotels. Evans Hotels is a leader in hospitality in San Diego. We have 2 different properties in Mission Bay. We have the Catamaran Resort Hotel and Spa, and then the Bahia Resort Hotel. And then we also have in our portfolio the 5-diamond, AAA 5-diamond lodge at Torrey Pines. And that's right where the US Open is held every year. So that's our 3rd property. Very proud of the AAA 5-diamond award. It's a very prestigious award in hospitality. Everything from luxury and standards is elevated to the 9s for those type of properties. So extremely proud of ourselves and getting that award. And different ones that we have here, Oceana Restaurant, hopefully opening up a new restaurant soon at the Bahia. I won't say the name because it hasn't been advertised just yet. And then we have the Grill, who's won a few awards at the Lodge at Torrey Pines, as well as the ARB Fine Dining at Torrey Pines as well.
Thank you so much, Evan. The thing I loved about this panel, and actually it's funny, I didn't realize it until we actually got together, if you think about the major industries in San Diego, if you go to the San Diego Economic Development, it's tourism, healthcare, biotech, pharma, and small entrepreneurial companies. So companies that have grown. And so we really have a great representation here of our three main industries here in San Diego. So I love that. So let's go ahead and start really quick. I'm going to give you a little bit softer. We won't get too deep into it just yet. Just really quickly, maybe Wendy, you can start. Just quickly, I guess, why did you choose to take a role in HR? What was it about HR that drove you to that? And then I'll have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure. So I actually did my undergrad at Point Loma as well. So it's athletic training. And then I started in the MBA program. I was part of the second cohort way back when, 2002. But I didn't actually finish my thesis. So you don't have to do thesis anymore. So that's a good thing. But I had to finish my thesis finally in 2008, and I defended my thesis. I was a nonprofit for about 8 years, and people were like, hey, we want you for our executive director for a nonprofit. And I was like, do I really just want to do that? Because I kind of fell into it, right? And so I actually did 2.5 months of informational interviews and kind of explored everything that I wanted to do once I defended my thesis to decide what I would do next. And what I loved about nonprofit was that I could help people and make a difference. What I didn't maybe want to be fiscally responsible for a nonprofit and not make very much money and have to be so stressed about it, right? And this is just before the recession. I didn't realize it really at the time, but it was just before the recession. I started in recruiting, and I literally started back at the bottom. So, here I am, I have a full career where I could run an organization, and I started back at the bottom in recruiting. And that was been almost 13 years ago. It's been great. And I just built upon that, used my MBA and everything else and every other experience, and ended up that's how I ended up in HR. So it was on purpose, actually.
Awesome. And so far it's been rewarding career for you. I mean, you've been working a lot.
Yeah. No, it is all that and more. I mean, you could never plan for what's going on now. Like as far as my current situation, you can never plan for it, but it's beyond my wildest dreams and the most exciting thing I've ever done, so it's everything that I've ever done or learned or even did in other industries I'm using now. And the greatest thing is it's helping people, right? So everything we're doing is helping people, not only with the product that we're making as a company, but also, it's the human touch. It's about, I know that the people that we hire, they buy food for their families, with what we're doing, they were able to provide healthcare and our health benefits and all those things. It makes a difference in somebody's life, and trying to make it the best experience possible and trying to find the very top talent for our company, but also the right people who fit within our company who will be happy is one of my joys. So
awesome.
Challenge and joy.
Yeah. Efren, how did you wind up in HR?
For me, growing up, I always wanted to own my own business. I didn't even know HR was an option, a choice, a career, a field, a department, all the above. I wanted to own my own business. I always wanted to manage people. And at the same time, I also wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't want to go through all that reading and going to school. So the way I see it now, it's a challenge for me when I read policy or different things like that I do have to read. It's a challenge more. So for me, it kind of just naturally happened that I was working at SeaWorld at the time, and I was in the guest relations representative. I was in the guest relations department as a representative. And I heard of my coworkers going over to HR. At the time, I was going to San Diego State, and I'm sorry to mention the school.
You're okay. I live right across. I love San Diego State. You're okay.
Yeah, I was going to state at the time, and so I was a business management major. So I went and talked to my counselor about what else I could do for HR, because I got into the department, really liked it, and I've been in it ever since.
That's fun. Yeah, it's funny. I have a similar. I was working at Sears in El Cajon back in the late 80s, early 90s. And next thing you know, I'm working in the HR department in the store because I'm a business major. And that's how you just fall into it, right? And it works out. I love it. Allie. Oh, unmute.
Sorry, I thought I pressed the button. I also went to San Diego State, so Efren.
You're okay. Go ahead.
There, at least we've got some
I
numbers
watch their
here.
football games. We're good. We're good. I'm a football fan.
I actually was a hospitality and tourism major, and so I worked at Hilton hotels for, I don't know, 8 years throughout college, and I did an internship in the HR department, even though food and beverage was my functional expertise and where I continued to grow in. But there was something about human resources that I really loved, because I think to be a good, powerful manager, you need to have the fundamentals of human resources, and you need to understand that in order to be effective. And the people part of it always really intrigued me. So I too took a step back from my food and beverage career and took a HR coordinator role at a hotel in La Jolla. And then I just put my resume out there on Indeed to see what else was out there, because I was open to changing industries. And Lee Keith from Perfect Bar called me. I had no clue what it was, and kind of the rest is history. They were at an inflection point at their company where they couldn't really afford a very experienced individual, but they needed somebody who had tenacity, wanted to grow, wanted to learn, and wasn't afraid to kind of figure it out on their own as they kind of married their way. Because a lot of these small companies, they don't have a lot of compensation availability. So it kind of worked. And the rest is kind of history. And it's just a wonderful role that I feel like gets a bad rap. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times human resources isn't looked at in the most positive light, but I feel the change is coming. And I've said this before, and I do think it's kind of like this revolution to kind of change that thought and that perception on the human resources department.
I love it. And there's actually a couple of questions I want to dig into that a little bit deeper. But just really quick, Allie, while you were already answering, so just give me a couple of either character traits or specific skills that you think are important, like even that you potentially or you possibly possess, or maybe that a good HR rep, HR business partner would possess, character traits or skills.
Sure. Again, this would be my take on it, but I think you have to be emotionally intelligent. You are dealing with people after all, and you have to be able to situationally manage based on that person, and also then feel comfortable to live in the gray. Even though human resources very much like you think of black and white rules, follow them. There actually is the human element, so you have to be super comfortable to live in this gray area and be able to adjust based on that human that you're looking at on the other end, and make decisions that are based on law, policies, fairness, equitability, but also catering to the needs of that person. So somebody who's really comfortable with that and has that emotional intelligence as well. Another one I think is somebody who's able to kind of not be scared of conflict. I think in so many ways people fear conflict, but I think we have to embrace it, especially in the human resources department, because if we don't embrace it and we don't accept it and praise it, then you're not going to encourage your managers to do the same, because open dialogue, feedback, those conflict days are very healthy and important to grow and to make everyone better. And I think most people feel great resolution after they have those tough conversations, but I think it's very difficult for some people. They're some of my favorite things to do. And then I think it's just also having, I don't know how to phrase this, but like, you just want to help people. I think there is like a service nature to this role, because you do want to ensure that you are providing a great place for somebody to work, and you have their best interest in mind. So there's that service nature to it as well.
Awesome. Wendy or Efren, do you want to add to that? So skills or characteristics somebody in HR should?
I agree with everything Allie said. I think the one that I was thinking that I would add to that is you have to be able to build rapport quickly and easily with people. You have to be able to gain people's trust, because if you're not gaining your employees' trust, it's going to be hard for them to feel comfortable to come to you when they have something going on in the workplace that they want to talk to you about or even mention. You have to be able to build those connections. So you have to be personable and then professional too. Be able to keep confidential information and share it only with those that it's absolutely a must to share with and be able to keep that balance between personable and being confidential at the same time, because part of it is growing and building relationships, but then the other part of it is being able to manage those relationships to be able to address the issue or address whatever's going on, or help them if it calls for help, and being able to guest service them, kind of like what Ali mentioned to conclude her answer.
Awesome. Thanks for writing that. Wendy?
In all the above. I mean, gosh, emotionally intelligent, caring for one another. And, I think I agree with all of that, living in the gray constantly. But the only two things I could think of that maybe are a little to add to that is an active listener. So, you really got to hear people. So maybe that's how you get rapport, and you're an active listener, and you have to be adaptable, because even, people aren't always like, this is how they act every day, or this is how you think that's going to turn out. It doesn't always turn out that way. And on a regular basis, things are going to come up, and you're just like, what? Oh my gosh. And then, so you have to figure out how to do that, and even the solutions, to be creative and be adaptable, and really train your managers to be that within the law, of course, and making sure that we're, doing everything right. But there's a lot of, and I guess that's part of going right back to where the gray is, there's a lot of gray in there as well. But I agree with what everyone is saying wholeheartedly.
Awesome. Thanks, man. So Wendy, I'm going to throw this one to you, because you actually mentioned, you talked about this, that human touch. So you've all agreed, and you've all said that there's a lot of this business process, policy, administrative work that you have to get done while still maintaining that human piece of the human resource. How does that happen? I know you talked a little bit about living in the gray, and Ali, I think you mentioned, but what are specific things that you do to make sure that get policy done, and I got to focus on the people that are the greatest resource?
So I guess I think of it, in a couple different ways. We think of it as like an internal team as a manager, the people who report to me, what's going on with them. And, there's a lot that's changed in the last 2 years. There's just so much that's changed in our world and how we do work. Like, we went from a company that was, all of us were on site, to, many teams are on site, but then my team is completely 100% remote and all over the country in different time zones. So it's how you think about the people, but then also too your candidates, and then just because someone joins the team doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship with them after. So it's just about trying to be the best person you can personally be, and the best manager, and the best teammate, even if you might outrank them or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're just the best teammate you can be, and coworker, and try to collaborate as much as possible, and remembering that those are people with feelings and ideas of their own, and career aspirations, and all those things too. So it's just kind of keeping those things in mind, because we all have to hire this many people, or get this many this project done, or whatever, but it involves so many different levels of all of that in people. So.
Awesome. Ali, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, Wendy, that was great, and I agree with that. And I think this kind of also supports what Efren said, which is just be authentic, and really just take the time to build that trust. And I think to do that is just to build those relationships. Don't have everything be transactional. Hey, how are you? Tell me what's going on. Engage that active listening that Wendy referenced too. It's like you can have those personal interactions to gain that trust, and then that individual will come back to you more proactively when there are issues or they want to grow, because you have that relationship. And it's just not making everything so transactional. It doesn't have to be. Really engage with them, and then you can build upon that by showing you want to see them succeed. And so that could be even in assisting with career pathing and opportunities for them. So I think definitely authentism is a really good trait that I would add as well.
I love it. Efren, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Just a little bit from a different perspective. So from the perspective of trying to hire people right now, especially just because there are so many numbers, I do try to personalize whatever communication I have to make it sound like I'm really welcoming and inviting a candidate or an applicant to apply, to interview, or whatever the case is. Because if they feel like, a lot of times I'll have them and I send everything out from my personal email. I put my personal information on there. And so I say like, hey, my name is Efren. I'm welcoming you. Like, here's my LinkedIn, click on my profile so you know who I am before you even get to a job fair, for example. And I try to really personalize that. And even though I'm sending this to the masses, when they arrive at the job fair, a lot of them do recognize me because of my face or my name or whatever the case is. And they'll say, oh yeah, like, you're the one that emailed me. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And so even though they kind of know that I'm probably reaching out to a lot of people, I still do try to focus on the one individual in front of me at the time and say, yes, like, what is it that you're looking for? Like, what kind of opportunities are you looking for? So even though it's like quick transaction almost, and like, to use your wording, it's really the personalization touch of having that one-on-one conversation from a transaction to then a personalized service.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think, and we're going to talk a second about changing the brand, but when you think about HR, when I worked in HR, it was all about policies, procedures, making sure you get enough hiring, terminations, yearly reviews, all that transactional stuff, when it really is about people. So with that said, Efren, I'm going to throw this one to you, even though Ali, you kind of brought it up a little bit. I want to talk about this rebranding of HR. So back in the day, you were an HR manager, you were a recruiter, now we have a people and culture manager, business partner, talent acquisition. Is that all? First of all, I love it, but is that one a way for potentially to try to rebrand what HR is about? And then are there other things that you're seeing companies do, or just the industry, SHRM or SDHR Forum, trying to do to kind of rebrand HR back to being people focused?
Yes, absolutely. So, kind of like, I think Ali mentioned this at the beginning where she said that the perception of HR is really like when you're in school and you're going to the principal's office. Like, a lot of times that's what it feels like when you come in and, oh, meet me in my office, and they're like, wait, I'm going to an HR office? Yeah, but it's different. So yeah, I love it too, the rebranding of people and culture, talent acquisition. So recruiting, even then, like, you think of recruiting, it is a lot more transactional. You think of talent acquisition, and we're saying we are searching for talent to join our team. So even that message comes across differently. And so when you have that, that's what I'm looking at. And the business partner too. So from when I first started in HR, HR was really seen as a non-revenue generating department. So in this time of trying to cut costs and making things more efficient and continuous improvement, you have to look at other ways. And that's one of the biggest things that I like about HR now, is that it's transitioning over to a business partner role, where not only are you kind of seeing those operations holistically, you're also having that background of, it is people. You're still managing people at the end of the day, whether you're an operations manager or an HR manager, you're managing people. And so when you bring that aspect of people and culture, now it's something that it kind of brings everything together as a whole, where we are your resources. We're not just, laws and principles office. Like, we're here to help you growing in your business from the people standpoint. So looking at your operations and how can we be more efficient with our people and resources in order to be better efficient in our business.
Well, there we go. Ali or Wendy, either of you want to chime in on that? Ali, you can go first, and Wendy.
Sure. We're actually transitioning our human resources department name to people operations, and I'll be people and culture director. And that's it. Yeah. And that's really stemming from the fact that, like, human resources, it's like we're getting away from the compliance kind of like focus, even though of course we are still focused on compliance, but we're also transitioning into this age of we see our talent, our people as our asset. We need to develop and invest in them, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the people, the business cannot run. So it's just the shift in focus, right? Prioritizing talent, prioritizing people, and investing in them. I think just changing the name changes the like perception and changes the way people might view it. And it's saying, look, we're here for you to help you develop. Because a big thing with us is let us do whatever we can to develop you to be the best version of that you can be in your role, because I want other companies to see us as best in class. Like they have best in class talent. I want to poach from them. Like we take that as a compliment. So we need to invest in these people. We need to take the time to help develop them. And I think that shift, and even just the name, is doing a lot of good. And you'll see it everywhere. Like human resources, the title of it, I feel like is kind of going to the wayside.
I love it.
I like it.
I love it. Wendy?
Our company too is going away from human resources, going to people and culture. Talent acquisition is staying talent acquisition because we like it. But in our company, and I think Ali, you guys probably do some production as well. Like we need the people. So like when you multiply, a 97 person company 16 times that, you need talent acquisition. So the best thing is that, as for our company, it's always been ingrained from our two founders who didn't come from a corporate background. They valued us from the beginning. And so I'm very thankful to have been a part of this team. And I've been a part of other companies where we were valued, but not quite the same manner. And it's just a little bit more nuanced here, where they really are like, you have built our company, and we have. And so it's really cool to be a part of that. And then, because of the great people that we're bringing in, they're really doing all the things, we bring them in, do what they do. I can't do what they do at all, but I can find you, and my team can find you. So I kind of agree with everyone here, but that's as well. We're people and culture.
Awesome, Wendy. I love that. Okay, I'm going to get a little heavy here, if that's okay. So I sent you this prior. So a recent Gallup survey following a steady rise over the last decade, I'm reading this, sorry, employee engagement decreased globally by 2 percentage points from 22% in 2019 to 20% in 2020. It says here, leaders will need to address this decrease in the business impact on workplace culture, employee retention, and performance, as well with global borders closing, workplaces potentially shuttering. Stress reached a record high among employees from 38% 2019 to 43% in 2020. How do you address, and it's obviously a lot of it's COVID related. One, and I'm going to let anybody kind of jump into this. How are you addressing these issues of stress, mental health issues related to COVID, a lack of engagement? Are you seeing that? Who would like to take on that one?
I'll start it off, just because for us in hospitality, so we didn't close a single day during the pandemic. All of our hotels stayed open, but it was very difficult because there were many layoffs, and especially because our industry was one of the hardest that was hit because of the pandemic. So that made it tough. But I think it's kind of bringing that people insight back and saying, we realize we just went through a pandemic. Everybody's dealing with it in a different light. So some people may see it differently, are reacting to it differently, have taken away different things from it. So you just have to be open. And for us in communicating with our managers, it's that. Keep an open mind, because you don't know what you're going through is very different than what somebody else can go through. And like I said, bringing the people aspect back to that and keeping them engaged in a way that we're still a team, we're here for each other, we're all here at work, kind of like, taking on this situation as a team, and being able to kind of strive and move forward and going from where we are right now. So I think it's bringing everybody back and even finding different ways of doing it. So a lot of times, like when we would have employee meetings of doing it indoors, we're doing it outdoors. right? So it's just the different things that can help, and making sure that we're still using some of those key aspects of communication and making sure that we're engaging everyone. We're just doing it in a different light and being creative with what we're doing so that people stay engaged.
Would anybody else like to add on to that?
Sure. So with our company growth, we actually created a onboarding, it was onboarding and culture department, but now they're onboarding, engagement, and internal communication. So we just keep growing and evolving because as a 97-person company, it's easier to just talk to everyone, right? You just it's very easy to communicate and get ideas across. Now we have a whole team that does all the onboarding as well as the engagement, like with different things. Like today, Hispanic Heritage Month, they did something special for the whole company. We're really just going to be going through our second year of performance evaluations, literally in our company. So it's like everything's new. A lot of things, we're still a work in progress in many of those aspects, but I think, we brought in some really amazing, just amazing people to help us do this on that team. And so it's not, it's all within all of our teams and all of our, individuals to perpetuate this, but we actually created that team to help us. So as we continue growing and evolving, they'll work closely with managers as well. So
awesome. Thank you, Winnie. Allie?
Yeah, I think, pre-COVID, there were engagement issues, right? Especially with like the new workforce that's joining the total workforce. It's more like they want to feel purpose. They want to feel attached to the meaning, to the value of the company. So when they didn't or they don't, I feel like that can affect engagement or whatnot, because they're looking for that purpose-driven role and really to connect it. So I think for us addressing this, in a pre-COVID life, it's identifying how they're directly impacting the company's performance and how they are directly contributing. I think that that's something that this new workforce wants. Then COVID hits. I think that's an adjustment for everyone. And I think, they said it both great, where it's like you have to address every situation, specifically that person, because you don't know that situation. And I think it's empathy and allowing flexibility. I think the one positive thing that we can say from COVID, because there's a lot of bad things, right? But if we focus on a good thing, it accelerated the path to this hybrid model, a flexible work schedule, less rigidity, and this old-fashioned philosophy of butts and seats equates productivity. So that's gone to the wayside. And that was definitely something that, at least in my company, we struggled with maybe that older generation or people who that was just something that was in their core that they grew up with, that you have to be there 9 to 5. You've got to sit in that seat because that means you're productive. But COVID just blew that out the window, because we were able to be productive in this new hybrid world, or fully remote, now hybrid. And I think that's helped engage people again, because we're allowing them to work on their terms. We're allowing for them to put their mental health first. Like we have sick days, but we call them sick/mental health days. And we say, take a mental health. And mental health might be go to the spa, go play golf, go sit on your couch and Netflix, like whatever that means to you, do it. And I think it's then leading by example. So it gives permission to people to actually utilize it. Because I think people are afraid to use it, even if it is a benefit that's there. And just putting it first and talking about it, I think has really shown some positive impact to our employees, because it was dark days at first. Like people were really struggling, but I think now we're all in kind of like this great spot, kind of getting used to this new way of life.
I love it. I do have a question from our group, so but I want to really touch on that really quick, Allie, and just ask you a follow-up question. So a few weeks ago, Jamie Dimon he had done an interview with the Wall Street Journal and Citigroup CEO, and he's pretty progressive for a banking finance CEO. And he had said his concern with the hybrid model was that people who choose to remote work might potentially get left behind. Particularly, he said, his female employees, because many of them are going to stay home potentially, And so his fear was that if they're not there, promotions could get, how potentially could you overcome that? Or do you see that as a potential issue? Or, I mean, I know Perfect Bar's not Citigroup, right? So,
I don't, just because that's not within our culture. I mean, it just feels like very off culture to us. But I think like I hear what he's saying, and I think we still have a headquarters and we still allow people to come in, but the way that we've already been communicating for the last 18 months, it's kind of in our core now. So I think it's not weird to have this hybrid way of life, and we never want to put anybody in an uncomfortable situation. But I think as more people kind of get used to it, they're starting to see that the office is like a comfortable place, and how, you know, it's kind of good for your soul when you see people that you haven't seen in a long time except through a screen. So kind of letting them come to realization of how important it is on their own, instead of it being forced upon them, so that they can do it at their own pacing. But no, I don't see that. I don't feel like people will be left behind, at least not in our organization. We've got like 78 people, so it's really easy to kind of know everyone. But maybe in a different company they feel it. I'm not sure.
Either Efren or Wendy, any thoughts on that?
You know, I think that for us, I mean, we do have a lot of upward motivation, whether they're in the office or not. I mean, even, you know, 3 of my TA team got brought up to the management team because they've just been doing a great job. But I think it's, you know, as our managers have been in their job for more than 6 months or 3 months, or, you know, a year for some, you know, it's really about training, and just the culture is just moving up. We move fast. Things keep evolving, and I don't know, like, as we mature and become whatever that is we are going to become one day, what that will look like. But I think that for the moment, we're like Allie, we just don't really have an issue with that currently.
Okay. Efren? No.
No, for us, there are some changes, not many. I think it's easier for us because we've transitioned because of the 3 different properties that we have, and we have our corporate kind of all spread out. There's a few of us here at this property, there's a few of us at the lodge, and a few of us at the Cat. I think it's made that easier because we don't necessarily have to travel to the other property to get a meeting done. But from the standpoint of being here, I think for us, it's important for the message to be, you know, our guests are here and we're here for our guests. So as an organization, we've kind of stuck to that and saying, yeah, we do have some tasks that we do outside, and just kind of like how we did before. And we will take a few meetings outside, but a lot of it is still focused on the guests, which is we have to be here to provide them the guest service that they deserve.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense. I guess it does depend on the industry. The question was from Frederica was, are policies going to change based on more people working remotely? And it sounds like for at least for Wendy and for Allie, those policies have changed. You're now allowing people to work more remotely if they need to, or choose to, or just stay home.
We've actually allowed people to move out of state. I think it's like the flexibility and this a willingness and ability to allow your employees to flex where they need. You now have an even more loyal employee who's probably going to stay longer than potentially moving somewhere else, because you went to the table and you listened to them and you were able to do what they asked of you. So I think it's important.
That's awesome. One of the other questions, and actually it's interesting because I don't know which company, it's a bigger company. They're actually creating hubs. It's up in Portland. They don't want everybody, they want people to still come back to work, but they don't want them to commute. And so they've started to build hubs in major sectors where their employees live, so their employees can just walk to the hub and then they can work with their teammates and then they leave, or they can work from home. But it's giving them still the motivation to come to work, because commuting is, I've read, is the biggest issue. So the other question I have for you regards to what's going on kind of currently is this idea, a couple of pay issues, one, pay gaps, and then just pay in general. You know, a lot of people are talking about we need to increase fair and living wages. We need to increase the minimum wage. How do you address these pay issues? One, while still maintaining budgets, right? Because you have to maintain budget. So how are you addressing those pay issues? And then two, I mean, it's a reality. There is a gender pay gap. Is your company even looking at that? Is it an issue? So I guess let's start with Efren. Why don't you take this one first? So pay.
So for us, I'll kind of start. We have a wage scale where entry-level roles or roles that are typically hired for in the masses when it comes to hospitality, everyone's on the same wage scale. So as far as having a difference in male versus female, we don't necessarily have that because we make sure that everyone's hired at the same wage. And even for some of our higher positions, like a director, we're always looking at our other two properties, and even then extending that to other hospitality in San Diego to see where or how much position is paying, so that not only are we competitive in the market, but we're also making sure that we're paying the same for the same position, the same work that's being done. And I think on the other side of that, for looking at wages from the minimum wage standpoint, that one's difficult. I mean, for us in hospitality, the margin is so small when it comes to adding even like 50 cents for a position. You're talking about $2 million at the end of the payroll year. And that margin is getting smaller and smaller. So one of the things that we're still kind of battling with is in hospitality, what are we changing? What are we doing to be proactive so that we're not staying behind the curve and we're making sure that we're coming out proactively in continuous improvement? And how can we make some of our operations more efficient so that the margin can continue to stay? Because even in hospitality before the pandemic, it already had a small margin. So even now it's getting tighter and tighter. So we just have to find more creative ways of doing things outside the box so that we're keeping that margin from a business standpoint and being able to maintain operations.
I love that response. I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, just raise the minimum wage. And, and yes, you need to pay a good wage. And I love the fact that you're just not going, well, we can't do it. I love the fact that you're open to going, hey, we can explore new. We just need to be more creative. And so I appreciate that so much. So anybody else, Ali or Wendy, want to address that?
Yeah, I think two ways of it. One, we do like a comp analysis every year to make sure that our salary grades are to market, kind of like what Efren was just saying. And then everyone who's in a different position lands in that salary grade, and then there's opportunity within that salary grade to grow. So I think having a competitive and up-to-date salary grade, comp structure, whatever you want to call it, is critical. And then you gut check at that time to ensure there's equitability across gender, across departments, across diversity, everything. So I think that's that part of it. The other part of it is base salary is just one part of the total compensation package, and to not lose sight of that and be creative in ways that you can add on to that compensation package, because not everyone's core benefit that they want is going to come in terms of a base salary. It could be a benefit, it could be flexible work schedule, it could be a bonus incentive. Like there's so many ways you can be creative to get that total compensation package to be a little bit more, or to be higher, but it's not going to come just with that hourly wage. So I think it's really leaning on that. And I think so many people don't realize, especially new entries into the workforce potentially, what a total compensation package includes.
Yeah, I love that, Ali. I mean, when I think back to the Q12 survey, Gallup's Q12, employee satisfaction, money's pretty far down. I mean, you have to have a living wage, obviously, but there's so many other things, people that care about you, opportunities for mastery, so I love that. That's just such a great point. Wendy, did you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. And definitely we work with and deal with a lot of that too. I mean, but I will say that what I wanted to add was in the last year and a half, 18 months, a little bit longer, maybe, it's been really hard to find people, right? Q isn't necessarily, we pay above minimum wage. So we don't have those, issues, and our margins are quite large. I mean, with the funding and different things that we've had.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate there, but really the people that we're looking for, I mean, this is a biotech hub. So, there are a lot of other organizations similar to ours that are looking for the same people, and we need these people like right now, and we need them, a lot of them. So we've been typically a leader in pay, but it's not just even our lower level positions that we're competing with. I mean, all of the people that we're looking for are all knowledge workers. So they're the scientists, they're the quality people, they're the tech people. Tech people have been, sought after for over a decade, and that they're hard to find. And so it's not just, it's on all levels, kind of counter offers are just left and right. And all those things that we've never really seen before, like as much ghosting, or just a lot of crazy different hiring things that have happened over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, that sometimes it doesn't even matter pay. But like I said, I mean, I'm fortunate that Q is a leader as far as that, in things that we can offer for total package. It's been great, but it's been a challenge for sure. That finding enough workers to do and fill all the positions that we need. I know it's been a challenge for everyone, but we're a challenge for us as well.
So I thought ghosting was only relative to dating. So I appreciate.
No, it is now. It is not.
It was up until about maybe 5 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. Like, this is relatively new term in HR, but it's a very hot topic in HR right now.
It is real, Nick. It is real.
Okay. So we need to, so the next SDHR forum needs to be about ghosting, how to avoid ghosting. Okay, so I could have literally, I didn't get through a lot of because great conversation. We could do this for 2 hours. I worked in HR for over 20 years. I love HR. And so, so I do want to ask just 2 other quick questions. And just one, many of the students on this Zoom are potentially interested in going into HR field. And so one, I would ask, if there's one thing, if there's one good piece of advice that you could give them is there, is it HR certification? Is it just go get a recruiter job? What is that one piece of advice you would give to get some of these students thinking about going into HR, or if they want to, what would be the next step? So let's start there. And let's start with Allie. Let's start with you.
I think I would recommend 2 things. One is, if you find a company you want to work for, get in whatever way you can and let them know your intentions of wanting to be in human resources, but learn the organization, because having organizational knowledge is only going to better you within the HR role or people operations role, whatever you want to call it, because you have to be kind of like a general manager. You have to understand the flow of the business, right? So you can support all of the different functions. So get in however you can, let them know your intent, and have patience. I think a lot of times, like, we want to just get to that top role, right? Because that's what we think that we need to be at. Have patience, do the work, and it will pay off. I promise. I had a Point Loma Nazarene graduate who was part of Frank's class. She joined me. She has since moved on to get a higher level role at a different company. I am forever sad, but I am so proud of her. But she had patience. She started as a receptionist and she worked her way up to HR specialist. And now she is a people operations senior specialist over at another company. So patience, and find the company you want to work for and get in how you can.
Thank you, Allie. That's amazing. Efren, go ahead.
I agree with that. I mean, a lot of the times I would say it's harder to transition from an operations manager from one company to an HR manager for a different company versus within your same company. For me, similar to what Allie was just mentioning, that's how I got my foot in the door in HR. That's what I would recommend. Anytime that you have a position within a company and they have an opening, and a lot of the times, I hate to even say it, but with HR, I've seen that you do have to really start from the bottom, because you have to get the aspect of knowing what an assistant and a coordinator does in order to be able to manage an assistant and a coordinator. So I think a lot of times you know, for me, for example, like when I worked at SeaWorld, I was in operations for guest relations, which is customer service. So my next role, I got a senior manager role at Target, managing the guest experience department. So that was an easy transition from one company to another where I've experienced it because it's operations and it's customer service. And I was able to learn the cashier aspect versus being in HR. After that role, I went from a senior manager to then being a coordinator in HR. And that's what I had to do to get into HR because it's harder to get from a manager to an HR role. So especially because a lot of our audience is students and all of you are young, I would recommend getting into whatever company you're at right now. Try joining their HR department. See when that HR position comes and go ahead and apply to that, or even look for them or talk to them to see what experience they're looking for. For me at SeaWorld, they wanted park operations experience and they wanted leadership experience. At the time, I didn't have a leadership role, so I applied for the next leadership role, attained that one, and then I applied for HR. So you just kind of have to find your way, but being able to you know, Allie's point, be patient and talk to someone to see what experience they're looking for, so that way you can kind of mold your background to that for a particular company.
Awesome, Efren. Thank you so much. Wendy.
1000% agree. I mean, Allie did it, I did it, we started over, you know, and it's not even in your HR career. Are you going to start over more than once? Perhaps. Because, I mean, I started in recruiting, many years ago, 2008. And this is after, like, you know, I was going to be the boss, a fiduciary responsibility for a whole organization. And I started at the bottom again, you know, and so I was in agency recruiting for over 8 years. And then I wanted to do corporate recruiting. So I took a contract job. You know, I literally was like, I'm ready. I got a certification at UCSD. I was like, you know, now's the time I'm going to change. So I changed and I moved over to a corporate recruiter contract role at Cubic for 1.5 years. So, I mean, there was 8 recruiters. I ended up hiring 32% of everything that was hired. And I was like, okay, the contract ended. I'm going to say we go to a Christian college. It's a God thing. The director of human resource happened to call me. I had broken my leg in Alaska, was at my parents' house. I just broken it. I didn't know whether I was going to be able to be on, you know, when I was going to travel. She's like, hey, would you like to join our company? And hold on, let me just see the CEO will let you join. And he required everybody to be on site. So I couldn't be on site. And I, you know, went up the stairs on my high knee to go do my Zoom interview with the second and third Zoom interview with this company. And it ended up that they hired me as consultant. So now I was a full-time employee, not until 2.5 months later, but you have to be flexible. So I was a consultant, and now, you know, now I had talent acquisition for a company, you know, that is 16 times itself. And, you know, I have a team below me of 22 people growing. So it's just, you know, you have to kind of just be ready to start over and grow and rise to the occasion and be excited. You know, this is an exciting, sometimes very hard, but exciting field. And, you know, you can make a difference with a lot of people on an everyday basis. So that's my story.
Appreciate that. And Wendy, the three of you have made an impact on at least our students here. So I appreciate that. Is it okay if our students, do you all three use LinkedIn? Perfect. Would it be okay if they connected with you?
Yes, I'm terrible at LinkedIn, and I know that's bad for an HR person to say.
That's okay.
So email is best.
Email is best. Okay, perfect. So is it okay if I forward their email? Awesome. Thank you so much. And just so you know, when you see the financials for Perfect Bar going up and up and up, I'm just purchasing more and more, right? So I'll make sure I keep you all in business. It's my favorite snack. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate the three of you so much. Such great conversation, such great insight. I just can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Frank, did you want to add anything? Turn off your microphone or on it. Come on, Frank.
Okay, I'm back in. And yeah, thank you. Thank you all. This is great. You know, some of my students were texting me saying, you know what, how insightful this has been for them, and what a great group of people that we are doing. So fantastic. Thank you for all being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Yeah. If there's anything we can ever do, please let me know. Please let me know. Awesome.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you later.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Applications.
I love it. Yeah, they're hiring.
We're hiring.
Right
We are
now. I'm telling you,
hiring.
they're hiring. Everybody, get on your horse.
I love it.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks again
guys.
so
Thanks for
much.
having us.
Okay.
Bye.